Welcome, everybody, to the Contextual Christian Church Bible Study, where today we will be getting into First Chronicles chapter 12, verse 16 to 30. Again, that's First Chronicles chapter 12 and verse 16 to 30. And I'll go ahead and pray us in. Everybody bow your heads. Father, thank you for this time that you've given us to be able to read your word, to be able to understand, and be able to put forth this effort towards you. I pray as we go to read today, we can understand simply from what we read yesterday, as well, if anything is connected, at just as much as if it's not. I pray that we're able to stand firm on the truth and that we do what you've called us to do, knowing first and foremost that all you've ever asked of us is effort. That's it. That we try, that we will make mistakes, but that we make that effort to do what you called us to do. And so we pray for growth in understanding and that we're able to be of support to each other as needed. In your son's holy and precious name, Jesus Christ Yeshua. Amen. All right. So last time what we had gone through, we had started chapter 12. And I could pretty much summarize everything that we put together. Let me just double check myself into one sentence, I'm pretty sure, but I just want to no, well, yeah. So we had David's 30 mighty men. And then afterwards, what we had read last time was the men that were on David's side and assistant David, even before Saul had died, back when even the king of Israel was against David, some of whom were even David's servants. And we saw again how it's not like one specific tribe who was established as like a hierarchy of rich folk or mighty warriors, just the whole nation is. No, it's just randos, whole bunch of random people that happen to be the mighty men of David. And then these helpers who were helpers of the war, they were mighty men of David. And then we finished up in 14, where it pointed out that some were captains over 100, and some of them were captains over 1,000. Yeah, a lot of people under them. And then the last thing that we read in 15 is that we pointed out that this group that we read of, the helpers in the war, that were on David's side before it was even acceptable in society, that they were the first. They went over Jordan in the first month when it had overflowed. In other words, the Jordan was overflowing, but they were the first one to go over there and basically push everybody out and take over the area. They were conquerors, so to speak. And that's where we finished up yesterday, as I'll switch it to the first section to start reading today. And as you guys can see how small the lettering got. Not a good day for bad eyesight. So, anyways, and there came of the children of Benjamin. First, let me say what we're reading. First Chronicles chapter 12, verse 16 to 20. Again, I'll be starting in First Chronicles chapter 12 and verse 16 to 20. And here we go in 16. And there came of the children of Benjamin and Judah to the hold unto David. And David went out to meet them and answered and said unto them, if you become peaceably unto me to help me, mine heart shall be knit unto you. But if you be come to betray me to mine enemies, seeing there's no wrong in mine hands, the God of our fathers look thereon and rebuke it. Then the Spirit came upon Amasai, who was the chief of the captains, and he said, thine are we, David, on thy side, thou son of Jesse. Peace, peace be unto thee, and peace be unto thine helpers, for thy God helpeth thee. Then David received them and made them captains of the band. And there fell some of Manasseh to David when he came with the Philistines against Saul to battle. But they helped them not. For the Lord of the Philistines, upon advisement, sent him away, saying, He will fall to his master Saul, to the jeopardy of our heads. Wait, yeah, he will fall to his master Saul, to the jeopardy of our heads. I read that wrong the first time. As he went to Ziklag, there fell to him of Manasseh Adnah, and Yotzabah, and Yadiel, and Michael, Mikael, and Yotzabad, and Elihu, and Ziltai, captains of the thousands that were of Manasseh. All right, so we have a little bit of a continuation of the people, but the first thing that we point out is that some people came from the children of Benjamin and Judah to where David was. But when David went out to meet them, he gave them a heads up. Look, if you're coming here to be at peace, to be on my side, to be my helper, then my heart will be knit unto you. In other words, we'll be tied together, stitched together. We're going to be one group. I got your back, you got mine. But if you're coming over here to betray me, then may God himself rebuke it. May God himself correct it. Now, we've seen in multiple verses when God does some rebuke. When God rebukes, it ain't a small thing. It's life or death. So he's saying, basically, in this situation, if you're coming here to be my enemy, to betray me to my enemies, then I pray God put you in that position. And then afterwards, we got into 19. But at first, in 18, the Spirit came upon Amasai, who was the chief of the captains. Now, here again, we have where chief is talking about a position, not about quality. So we're seeing more examples from what we read before of where it came up, seeing the other definition being used. And then in 19, we have where there were some that came, some of Manasseh, of that tribe, Manasseh, to David. And when he came from the Philistines against Saul to battle. So they came to David's side when the Philistines came against Saul. So again, we're dealing with a time before Saul had died. This is almost like a reflection in the mind, remembering, as we see in movies where they have some like shimmering going on the TV and then some memory comes up on video. That's basically what we're going through of these different people that were by his side. But they put on. Now, here, it's an interesting way that if you didn't read the situation, you could definitely confuse the way it's read. Now, for example, with this, Charles, what do you think the last sentence of 19 means?
My bad. Let me go on the Bible app because you're right. It is. The letters are small. Let me go to the Bible app real quick.
Oh, so
19,
you weren't
19.
following along, you were just listening.
Oh no, I was following along. I had to go back to the Bible app. For the Lord of the Philistines, upon advisement, sent him away, saying, he will fall to his master Saul, to the jeopardies of our head. And the question was, say the question again.
What do you think it means?
Um, because we read this before. I'd
Oh,
have to
wait,
give you
yeah,
the
yeah, I
answer
don't
on
want
what.
your cheat. I don't want your cheat.
Yeah, you see what I'm saying?
Uh,
I was going to answer
Thomas,
based off what.
Thomas, what do you
Okay.
think this means? The last sentence of 19.
He will fall to his master Saul to the jeopardy of our heads. Pretty much, hold on. I'm trying to put the words together. Give me 1 second. He will fall to
Not a
his
problem.
master. Trying to, like, either he would fall with his master or he would fall because of him going to his master
So what do you
regarding,
think it means?
like stated before, if you against me, you're not only against me, you against God. So you will fall along with Saul.
You took something out of context, bro. You did the
I was going
guesswork
based off the
again.
previous. Okay.
Because that was something different. That was David talking to the people of whole different people. That was from the children of Benjamin that came through. Remember 18 Amasai?
Yeah, that's what
Then
I
in
was going based
19 is,
off.
yeah, you're combining things that aren't supposed to be combined. In 19, the first thing we read is, and there fell some of Manasseh to David, or Manasseh to David. So we're already starting to talking about different groups. So you're combining something that shouldn't have been combined. All right, Chris.
These are the people that died in Manasseh. These are the people that fell in
No,
Manasseh.
no, 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 no. I'm gonna re-ask the question. I'm gonna re-ask the question. What do you think the last sentence of 19 means?
The last sentence. Give me 1 second. We'll reread it again. What does Ziklag fell to him of Manasseh? Captains of the thousands that were of Manasseh. Is that what you were referring to? The captains
What are
of
you
the
talking
thousands
about?
that were of Manasseh?
There's what is the last sentence? Okay, never mind. All right. So the last sentence of 19 says he will fall to his master Saul to the jeopardy of our heads. That's the sentence that I said. What do you guys think it means? Not what does it mean from 18, not 17. What does that sentence, what do you think it means? You guys aren't listening to the question for context. You're just answering guessing. That wastes my time, it wastes your time and everybody else's time. You guys got to stop doing that. If you don't know, say I don't know. It's okay to say I don't know. It's okay to give a guess answer if it's related. But when you're combining things that are obviously not combinable, or you're not even answering the question at all that I asked, why even say anything? You're just wasting time, which is a distraction and makes it where we can't focus, including yourselves. So, Charles, I'll give you the chance. What do you think the last sentence of, and you probably have the answer because we went through it together, but what do you think the last sentence of 19 means?
When we went through it, I remember David was with one of the kings of the Philistines, and the other princes of the Philistines were like, "Nah, just get him out of here. Because if we all go to battle, he's still part of the children of Israel. He can work with Saul and then kill us, stab us in the back. Get David and his men out of here." Now, if I was going to add, if I wasn't part of the study when we talked about it, then I would assume that David would fall as well. I would just assume David would die rather than what we had talked about David just going away from the Philistines and the Philistines going against Saul, and David wasn't a part of it.
Exactly. So if you read that as it is, without having the context of what we read before of the situation, then you might think that what the Philistines are saying here, that their advisement is that David, if he goes with them, he's going to get killed by Saul, and that's going to become even worse for us. That would be the first go to based on the context. But it's only because Charles and I, when we read that time and we remember that, it's only because we know the context where that wasn't the reason at all. They were worried, as Thomas had said, one of the possibilities that Thomas had said that they were that maybe he would side with Saul. That was what the answer was. But based on the context, if you read it and you don't know that information, it's more than likely you're thinking that because when we hear the word he will fall to somebody, we're not thinking about he will be on their side. We're thinking about he's going to get killed by them. This is why having the context from other chapters. And I've always described the context of the Bible as a forest. You got the leaves on a tree. That's the verse and everything within the verse itself. Then you got the branch of the tree. That's the sentences in the verse and how the verses around it connect. Then you got the tree up from the branch. That's the chapter, not the chapter. That's the group of verses that you're in, the section of verses. Then you got the group of trees. That's the chapter that you're in. Then you got the section of the forest. That's the book you're in. And then you got the whole forest, which is the rest of the Bible, all the other books. Everything connects, even if not directly. Every single thing connects. So if you forget about the verses or the information that we read before, you won't necessarily have the accurate information this time. We always got to strive to remember what we're reading and take time to re-listen if we got to struggle with remembrance so that we could be able to remember what we read to be able to give that context. So that was the situation there in 19. They were worried that David was going to go ahead and side with Saul, even though he had been doing right by the Philistines this whole time when he had run away from Saul and the Philistines took care of him and this king that he was under. And the king trusted David to be by his side, but the rest of the kings did not. And so David got kicked out for a lack of trust of other people. And it goes to show something else. Parents have said this to us at one point or another. Thomas, I'm probably sure you've heard it. Chris, you've probably heard it. Charles, you probably heard it. Have you ever heard a parent say, it's not that I don't trust you, it's that I don't trust them?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. The problem with that statement, just like the example here with the Philistines, is it's a lie. If you trusted me, then you would trust my judgment. If you don't trust my judgment, then you might trust some of my behavior, but you don't trust my decision and judgment in who I trust. So in reality, you don't trust me. And you're trying to manipulate with words to make it seem like it's not about me. But if I'm in the situation, and if you did trust me, then it wouldn't matter who it is. So that's the problem. Like here, I don't want you hanging out with them. Well, yeah, but even if they do something, I'm not going to do it. Well, it's not you that I don't trust. It's them I don't trust. Yeah, but I'm going with them. I have to make a decision to do things. Yeah, but I still don't want you going. Okay, then you don't trust me. It's okay to be honest and say you don't trust me. All right. Now, that's where we had from 19 a little example and lesson in today that we deal with from our parents as kids. And then in verse 20, so after he went to Ziklag, after they had kicked him out, then the people from Manasseh came to him and they stayed with him. And the people listed were Adnah, Yotzabad, and Yediael, and Mikael, and Yotzabad, and Elihu, and Zilthai, and captains of the thousands that were of Manasseh. So in that context, it's saying that they were captains of thousands over the tribe of Manasseh. So he even brought them over. So we have more people coming in. Now then, does anybody have any comments or any questions as we go to the second section? Then go ahead, Thomas, when you're ready. Don't forget to unmute.
All right. I'll be reading First Chronicles chapter 12, verses 21 through 25. Give you guys a couple. One second, my son's coming out the stairs. I'm gonna just tell him something. All right. Hold on, I didn't lost my place. One second, guys. Sorry. I'm trying to
All
read out
good.
of
You're
my
at
source,
21.
I tapped the screen and it jumped to another freaking book.
Oh, yeah, you got to be cautious if you're touching the top or the bottom because you will skip
Yep.
over.
Hold on, I gotta
That's why I make sure whenever I'm on my sword, I don't touch nothing but the middle. And I make sure there's a gap because if I accidentally touch one of the definition hyperlinks, it goes to that screen.
All right, here we go. And they helped David against the band of the rovers, for they were all mighty men of valor and were captains in the host. For at the time, for at that time, day by day, there came to David to help him, until it was a great host, like the host of God. And these are the numbers of the bands that were ready armed to the war and came to David to Hebron. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to jump past all the what's it called? The blue
If
lettering.
you switch it to KJV light, you won't have the blue letters.
But I want to be able to jump to when I need it.
That's true. Okay.
To turn the kingdom of Saul to him according to the word of the Lord. The children of Judah that bear shield and spread were 6,800 ready armed to the war. Of the children of Simeon, mighty men of valor, for the war 7,100. Okay, let me go back and read 21 to myself. So pretty much in 21, it's just kind of piggybacking off 20. It's all speaking on all the guys that met up with David. It's pretty much saying that they helped them against the band like being like a troop, like soldiers. So they helped them against that of the rovers. I'm not sure what that means, and there's no way to look it up.
Which one?
Rovers?
Oh, keep in mind that the definitions don't just work for one word. So if there's multiple words, then that's the writer of the Bible using a phrase to explain a word. So you could use the definition and then use it with it. Like a rover, how is it spelled?
Well, it doesn't have the blue thing I can click on and go and look at it.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Oh,
So all
Rovers.
now I would this is a situation. Now first go to the dictionary for the closest word that was just before it.
And it
And
says
before
here,
actually before you do that, look at the context surrounding it. You should be able to get it from that.
you're right, you're right. Let me take a second gander. And they held David against the band of the rovers. They mighty man of valor. Uh, help David against the troops of the enemies? Were they
Yeah.
enemies? For they all
But
were
based on
mighty.
that, like
Okay, go ahead.
so based on that, where is that? Do you know what a rover is? Like, look, this will be a time where what? Let me go to the my sword so I can see what you're seeing first.
When I think of rovers, I'm thinking of like Halo, like banshees and rovers and stuff like that.
Well, not just that. Okay, so in this dictionary we don't have it. This is why I say you want to start off with the surrounding context, then go to the Strong's concordance, then go to the internet.
Okay.
This is a translation into English. Whenever you see that, when there's multiple words like that, what they're doing is they're using a phrase to explain a verse or to explain a word. Like how I tell you guys when you need to explain something, you don't always need to use one word. That's what they're doing here. So this would be a good time where you look up what rover means in English.
Okay. Let's see real quick. Bruh.
You can put the S. It might be easier if you put the S.
Ethical diff.
You said what?
So I got here a person who spends their time wandering.
Yep.
Really?
Yeah. There's a kids game. Red Rover, Red Rover.
I don't know about that one.
Oh, you don't know that? Oh,
No.
never mind. That defeated that purpose. So, anyways, a rover is like a roamer, someone who roams. So, if you take it in the context, we're talking about a band, which is a troop of soldiers, but it's not just any soldiers, it's soldiers that roam around. Now, if it's soldiers that are roaming around, what would be their job?
To seek and destroy.
Yeah, exactly. So, with that in mind, if their job is to seek and destroy, then now you understand what's happening in that verse.
All right. So
So,
22. 21. We got the people helping David against the troops who are
there's a
roaming
word that's
around,
more commonly known that starts with a S and a C.
the soldiers.
Nope,
Oh, S. Hold on.
type of soldier.
The scouts.
Yeah.
Okay. So we pretty much got the people helping David against the scouts who are roaming around looking to seek and destroy, for they were all mighty men of valor and just captains and them pretty much mighty men, some of the best. And then in 22, it's pretty much saying that David had help coming practically all day, every day, day by day. David had help coming his way. Uh, Hold on, I'm gonna read this last part until it was a great host. Until
No,
he
bro.
had like so many people that it was in comparison to like an army. Like God was on his side, there was no touching us. That's how strong his
No, good try. Retry that.
okay,
You
hold on.
phrased it wrong.
For at that time, David for at that time, day by day, there came to David to help him until it was great host, like the hosts of God.
Now I'm gonna
Okay,
remind you of what you said. You said that it was like an army, like God is by their side. And I told you your correction was you phrased it wrong. That's your hint.
so read it to myself. Sorry, one more time, guys.
You're
Okay,
fine. This is why we're here. If it needs to take extra time, it takes extra time.
at that
This is
time.
why we set aside this time for Bible study stuff.
Let me look up a word real quick.
Hmm.
So David help that he received day by day was so great, like the host of God. Hold on. So they're being literal when they say host?
Yeah. Well, like, what is a
Okay, so
host?
okay, I see what you're saying. So David help was so great that it's like God was on his side. Telltale
Nope.
sign. Uh
What is a host?
the person who is in charge is just like hospitality and just making sure everybody's straight.
No, no, no. That's only one version of host. That's not what a host is in
That's
general.
what I was asking you. I was like, it says the literal host.
Yeah, literal host, but that's not what host mean. That's
What's the
one
second part?
position. A host is a person in charge of people, or it's a group of people in charge of things. That's what the hosts are.
Ah,
That's why you see a host of a restaurant at the beginning when you come in, and what are they doing? They're setting the people where they need to sit. The hosts are the people over people. Now, if we look at it from that perspective, who are the people in God's eyes, and who are God's hosts? Is it people? Are people the host of heaven?
no,
So who are the hosts of heaven?
the angels.
Exactly. So what he's
Okay.
actually saying, well, actually, before instead of me just giving it away,
No, go
Chris, let
ahead.
me
Go
give
ahead.
you a
Yep.
chance.
Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Did you say me? Hello?
Matt, we can't hear you, bro.
Yes, my bad. I muted it too early. Yes, I said Chris. Give
Okay,
you the
and the
chance.
question was?
The question is, what does 21 mean? What is it trying to get at? At the portion where it says, "For they were all mighty men of valor." I mean, not 21. Where was it?
22.
22. Where it says, "Until it was a great host, like the host of God."
Um,
And we just explained before you give
I
your
was,
answer,
go ahead.
we just explained that the hosts are the angels in heaven.
So basically it's like he does his part until the angels show up.
Hmm?
Is that not what you're saying? For at that time of the day, there came to David to help him. So,
Don't guess, Chris. Look at the context. Stop guessing. Look at the context. You got this. Even if you get it wrong, you got to give it an actual guess, not like just a dumbfounded
no,
guess with no context in mind.
no, that is with the context. The captains came to help against the scouts until the angels came. Is that not what it means?
No, but you're not even until it was a great host. Well, what's the it?
Oh, okay.
What have we
'Cause
been reading
maybe
about?
maybe I'm just the
What have we been
captains that
reading about
help.
this whole time? Not the captains. It's more generic than that. Even from last time,
Is
what
it
did we finish reading and what were we reading now together overall? I said it in the summary.
is it
Never,
not? Go,
never
go
mind.
ahead. Go ahead. Go
Charles,
ahead.
Can you hear me?
yes.
So you're talking about like the host of God until it was a great
But
host,
no,
like the
I want
host.
you to answer the other question I asked first to Chris because he didn't even have that much. What have we been talking about this entire time? It's not just the captains, it's more generic than that. That's the
So
hint
we've
I
been
gave
talking
him.
about David's army, soldiers.
Exactly. David's army entirely. Those that sided with David, even before Saul died. David's army. Now,
And
so then
the
what
question
is
you
the
were
it
asking,
relating to in
the it's
22? What
relating it's related to. So I'll just say this. It's relating to David's army. Verse 22
yes.
is talking about day by day, so many people came to help David. It's giving us a comparison. David's army became so massive, so great. It's comparing it to the army of God, like the angels that are with God in heaven. That's how great
There you
and
go.
massive his army was of the people joining and then helping David and joining with David. Is that what you were trying to get at?
Yes, that is
Okay.
exactly what I was trying to get at. And the context is what gives that. We've been reading about David's army this entire time. And then in 22, it says, for at that time, day by day, there came to David to help him until it was a great host. Based on that time frame, the host in that one, the first host, that's not the angels of God. It's the second host that was the angels of God. I shouldn't have had to explain that. We got two different hosts here. I said host just means a person or people that are in charge of other people. That's why a host of a restaurant is the one who seats everybody and sets everybody up. That's the host, person in charge of people. So we have the it, meaning David's army, was a great host. So we had so many people came that David's army became a great host, or in other words, a lot of people. And then we have the word like, which means we're comparing the host of God. And as we went through it with Thomas, what are the hosts? The angels of God. Now, if we're comparing an army of David to the angels of God, are we talking about angels generically then? No, based on the context. We're talking about the armies of God, which are made up of what? Angels. So this is based on the context. Instead of just guessing or saying, I don't know, without the context, instead of doing that, you look at the context and you would get the answer that Charles gave. It's doing a comparison of how massive God's army is and saying that David's army was starting to seem like God's army, that there was so many there. You guys get that, Thomas and Chris?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
get
see
what you're
where
saying.
I went
That's
wrong.
yeah,
And you
I
see
went
why I
completely
said you
left with
guys
that.
weren't
That's my bad.
looking on the context at all?
I wasn't that far off.
Yeah.
I just said it, I just twisted it a little bit at the end, but I was speaking along the lines of how great his army was in comparison to like God and stuff, if you listen back to it.
No, I was saying, okay, with yours, I said that you worded it wrong.
Right, exactly.
So you had the right idea, but you phrased it wrong.
True.
Now, let me ask this before you continue with your explanation. What is the difference between saying God's army, as the context shows, or saying that the army is so big it's like God is on their side? What's the difference between those two meanings, Thomas?
One is literally God's army, and the other one is a comparison to God's army.
No.
Okay.
Having Chris, I'll give you this
No.
chance. Chris, what is the difference in meaning between saying that they had an army so great it's like God is on their side versus the army is so great it's like God's army?
Uh, I would say I can't even tell you because I would have went straight with what Thomas said.
Yeah,
No, that's
you
fine.
worded it differently for him, bro. You said what's
It's
the difference between God's army and then you gave a comparison.
No, I said, what's the difference between saying that the host was so big it was like God was on their side versus saying the host was so big it was like God's army? That's the same thing I said to you, because that's what you said to me, that it was like God was on their side. So, Charles, what's the difference between those two phrases?
Could you say the two phrases one more time?
Yeah. The army was so great, it's like God was on their side versus the army is so great, it's like God's army.
So the first one is just saying we have this massive army because God is behind, God is with us, God is on our side. The second one is saying our army is like God's army, his army of angels. So one's just saying you're on our side. One is an actual comparison of like, hey, we have it as big as we have an army as massive as God's army is. Is that what you were trying to get at?
Close, but you phrased it wrong. All right,
Oh, I phrased
so
it wrong.
saying God is on our side is generic. That's the difference. You didn't actually say what the difference is. You just re-said what I said. God's army
Oh,
is
that's what you're trying to
specific.
get at. Got it.
Yeah, of course. You gotta. If I'm asking a question, I want an actual answer to the question. This is something I get on your case a lot in the past. Like you don't answer the question, you just rephrase what was said. I said, what was the difference? And you said, well, this says this and this says this. Okay, but what is different between those two? You didn't answer the question. So the difference is, and this is for Thomas too and Chris, the difference is that saying God's on their side has a lot of meanings. It's generic. You could mean just that God is on their side because they have such a big army. It could mean that. It could also mean because they're all coming to David, that God is on their side because David is the one leading them. That it's so much coming to them that we know it's God because God is bringing them to them. We've seen this happen in churches before. If you've been a part of any big church at any large amount of time, when they see a lot of people coming in, a lot of people, they automatically assume what? They assume that it's because God is on their side, that more and more people are coming in. When in reality, 9 times out of 10, it's because they're allowing sinfulness that they keep getting more and more people. Because the more strict you are, the more you adhere to the Bible, the less people want to be part of your church. Because people want the easy route. So saying God is on their side is generic. Whereas saying that his armies, just like his armies, you're not even saying that God is on their side at all. You're not saying whose side God is on. You're just comparing. You could do the same comparison in saying it like this. David's army was so great, it was like the army of the Nazi Germany. You see that, Thomas?
Yep.
So if I say that it's like the Nazi Germany army, does that mean that Nazi Germany suddenly supports Jewish people?
No.
Not at all. So one is a comparison of size, which is a real specific thing, and one is generic answer with no connection to what was actually read. That's why the phrasing was off. But I knew you meant the right thing, but that was the phrasing problem. All right, now that we got that out of the way, go ahead and continue with your explanation.
All right, and 23 is pretty much just saying the number of men that were ready, armed for war, backing David to take over the kingdom of Saul, how God said would happen. And then in 24, it's just pretty much saying how many children of Judah that bear shields and spears and all type of other weapons were 6,800 ready, armed, ready men for war. Then in 25, hold on one second, I didn't read this one. Other children, Simon. And then it's talking about the children of Simeon, mighty men that were 7,000, 7,100. So he overall he had quick math. 1 second, son. 6,900. Sorry, hold on. That's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. 13,900 people on his side are ready for war and to take over uh, the kingdom of Saul, according to the word of the Lord.
But that's not correct because that's not everybody. That's just of those 2 tribes.
Ah, okay.
When you
I was
said
just
of the
adding
people that
the
were
two.
ready,
I was
yep, you're trying to
staying in the
emphasize, but you turned the
context.
correct answer into wrong.
But I was just staying in the context. According to what's said right now, that's how many men he has. So I'll just stick it to that. I wasn't speaking on anybody else.
Yeah, but you got to specify of the 2 tribes because if
Ah,
somebody's listening in and they're not able to, because they're just starting out, they're not able to follow along fully, you could confuse them into thinking that that's the amount. But then when we have more people added, they're going to be sitting here like, because it's going to be in the next Bible study possibly. And that might not even be on this one where we finish up with the amounts. We might, but I'm just saying. So you
I'll
might
get there
confuse
one day,
somebody to
Matt.
thinking that. Yeah.
I'll get there one day, man.
So otherwise, good. Good job. Now, I'll switch it to the final section where Charles can get ready to read.
All right. I'll be reading First Chronicles chapter 12, verses 26 to 30. I'm going to give it a couple seconds. Verse 26. Of the children of Levi, 4,600. And Jehoiada was the leader of the Aaronites. And with him were 3,700. And Zadok, a young man mighty of valor, and of his father's house 22 captains. And of the children of Benjamin, the kindred of Saul, 3,000. Yeah, 3,000. For hitherto the greatest part of them had kept the ward of the house of Saul. And of the children of Ephraim, 20,800 mighty men of valor, famous throughout the house of their fathers. So, verse 26, the children of Levi, they had 4,600, which now we're reading again, because I'm always thinking of the children of Levi as those that are doing all the priesthood and those of the house of God, but they got fighters as well, so it's pretty cool. 27, we have Jehoiada,
The
leader of the
warrior
Aaronites.
priest.
I was thinking about did you see that movie? It was like something preacher where some preacher went to Africa and he was like he was defending the Africans against like the the warlords and all of that.
No, I
Something
don't
preacher.
remember.
I'll find that movie. I gotta find
Look it
that
up
sentence, y'all.
afterwards. Look it up afterwards and send it.
He's driving Levi. Anyways, verse 27, Jehoiada, he was the leader of the Aaronites, and with him were 3,700. Verse 28, it just goes out of his way to talk about Zadok being a young man and a mighty man of honor. And of his father's house, they had 22 captains. Strong possible, well, not even strong possibility. I possibility we'll be reading about Zadok again, which I kind of want to read more about Zadok since it kind of went out of his way for that. Verse 29, the children of Benjamin, which it brought up kindred of Saul. What's something a 5-year-old can understand? No, I don't. I want to use kinfolk of Saul, but I can just use like family of Saul. Kinfolk of 5. Not all 5-year-olds would understand
I'd
that
say
word.
family relatives.
Family relatives is better. Yeah, family relatives of Saul. They had 3,000. And let me read a little bit more real quick. For hitherto, the greatest part of them had kept the ward of the house of Saul. Let me figure out what the ward is.
There are black movies that should give you this answer already.
For hitherto, the greatest part of them had kept the ward of the. Oh, so that second part of this verse, it's just another detail of the best of them, the greatest ones. They were keeping watch of the house of Saul.
Nope, not best of the best.
For hitherto, the greatest part of them. So if we're not talking about the best of the
Greatest
best,
part.
if we're not talking about the best of the best, we have to be talking about like a number, like a good number, like a
Yeah.
massive number. A massive number of them kept watch of the house of Saul. A massive amount of them
Not
kept
just keeping
watch of that,
watch. They were in charge of. They were there. Like it's the ward. Like
guarding it.
think of a ward of the state. If you're a ward of the state, then the state is governing you. The state is in charge. You're under their care. So Saul's house was under their care and hitherto. What does hitherto mean?
Um, oh, man, let me find. I wrote it down somewhere. Let me find it. Give me a second.
Yeah, like jail warden. That's correct. Good job, Chris. But remember, If you have questions, you need to raise your hand and verbalize it in case somebody watches the video later. They can't see the chats that you guys put up. You need to speak it, not type it.
Hitherto. Hitherto. I know I have it somewhere.
All right, we can't wait that long, Charles. Hitherto means to the point of, or from the point before. From that point. In this case, beforehand, or up until this point.
And we're still talking about before. Well, yeah, because we're talking about Saul after Saul's death, and then that's a different story. But yeah, no, we're talking about before Saul's death. Say the hitherto part one more time.
Up until this point.
Give me a second. Phone. Okay. So yeah, up until this point, a good number of the tribe of Benjamin was like guarding the house of Saul, keeping watch of the house of Saul. The example that Chris brought up earlier, prison ward. But with verse 30, Ephraim had 20,800.
Not quite. When
back.
it's a prison warden, that person is taking care of them. You forgot one big important part. If they're taking
not
care
just the
of
guarding and the watching, that's the feeding, that's the
no, it's
making
not
sure they
about
have the
behavior.
essentials.
It's not about behavior. Thomas, do you know what he's missing?
Hear me?
Yep.
Oh yeah, I'm not sure. I'll make a stupid guess.
Chris?
I can't quite see what it is either.
They were on Saul's side up until this point. A ward is somebody who's there to take care of you. If they are there to take care of the house of Saul, are they Saul's enemy, Charles?
Oh, then no.
That's the part you were missing. These are people
So
that
being on
joined
Saul's
David's side after they had been on Saul's side for so long. They finally joined David's side.
A number more of them, because we already read about some that were in the last section or in our last study.
And then here's the other part that you forgot too. The greatest part is not a good number. What does greatest mean?
It's a huge number, a big number.
Not a huge number. That would be great, not greatest.
Well, earlier I brought up like the best of the best, but it wasn't that.
No, you're right about that. It's not that. What is the difference between great and greatest, Charles?
Well, that's what made me think about like the best of the best, because like when we use greatest, Michael Jordan's the greatest, right? People
you
use
wouldn't say
I
that
thought
Michael
about
Jordan is
that.
the greatest part of a basketball player. You would say he's the greatest basketball player. That's the difference between a number and a characteristic. So if we're talking about a number, what's the difference between a great number versus a greatest number?
With the greatest number has more of an emphasis than the great number, then, right? More important than the great.
Not more important. Importance doesn't play a part at all. Greatest just means the most. If I had the greatest time on a track record, I had the fastest. I had the best time. If I have the greatest amount of soldiers, I have the most soldiers. If I have a great amount of soldiers, I have a lot of soldiers. One is a comparison, one is a statement of fact. Do you see the difference now?
So in this greatest part, we're talking about the most being the ones that were on Saul's side versus just a lot of them being on Saul's side. Is that what you were trying to get at?
Exactly. So it's not saying that a lot of people or a great amount were still here with Saul. It's
The
saying the most
most.
were still here with Saul. So that means that there were people that joined David before. We read about them a little bit.
We
There's
read
a
about that
couple,
already. Yep. Yeah.
but now we got this 3,000 because most of them were still there on Saul's side
Hmm.
till they saw the
Which would
writing
make
on the
sense
wall.
until they saw the writing on the wall. But it would make sense before they saw the writing on the wall because these are the family members of Saul, the relatives of Saul.
Exactly.
Now for the oh yeah, I read verse 30. Now for verse 30, the Ephraim, the children of Ephraim, there's 20,800 mighty men of powerful, strong men of honor. And it brought up one little detail about them being famous throughout the house of their father. So they're just well known. Um, as far as their fathers go, they're just well known. I don't want to use popular. Popular is we don't use popular, famous in the same. Um, yeah, just well known, strong, powerful, honorable, mighty men. And yeah, that's all I got to say for this section.
Good.
Now, I was gonna let you say something first before I was gonna say what I was
Oh,
gonna say. Go
my
ahead.
bad. I had it muted. So one thing about that, it says famous throughout the house of their fathers. So that doesn't necessarily mean that they are famous outside of that.
Just within their tribe, just within Ephraim.
Now, why would somebody, if we're talking about mighty men of valor and everything, why would somebody be famous in their father's house, but not necessarily famous outside of it? Charles?
I could give it I want to give an example to answer this. My dad was like this, where he was famous in the families in between his family and throughout my mom's family, but once he remarried to another person, he was just a nobody. He was this, he was that. He wasn't famous Big Charlie. He wasn't famous gangbanger. He wasn't the famous cook. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Everything that they were known for inside the family. So
Yeah.
outside of the family, don't nobody know what they're known for. Now,
Soon
this
as he
is important
remarried, yeah.
too because for a couple reasons. For one, this could mean that they become famous for different reasons, not for what they're known for. Like, for example, in my family's house, I'm known as the black sheep. Everybody knows if something goes wrong, I'm the one getting blamed. But outside of my family, somebody looks at the lifestyle that I have, are they going to assume I actually struggled at all? If they just look at my lifestyle, Charles?
No,
Not at all.
no.
They're going to think that maybe I had some privilege. Maybe I had some stuff come up. I just had an easy life. Fact is, I had to build everything that I wanted to get to. In the same token, let's say somebody was a famous fighter in their family. They were amazing at fighting, but they're all patient and quiet now and they don't like fighting anymore. That person being known by their family as the fighter, everyone in the family knows what they're capable of. So if somebody outside the family tries to start some problems, who's going to be the first to jump in? Charles?
The famous fighter of the family.
No. He won't. The family will because they know what he's capable of and the other people don't. The fighter will step in if it continues to go on. But the first to step in, normally when somebody's known for being that kind of person in the family but not out, is they try to prevent it from getting too far because they know what they're capable of. I mean, we had a perfect example of this in our own life when I was at the mall with you.
Go ahead.
And I was just saying, I was saying something looked like something. I wasn't even making fun of nobody, but there was a shoe, like it holds the size and shape of the shoe up. It's an insert for the shoe. And it looked like something that is, let's just say, not very Christian. And so I turned around to the first closest person, a woman that was behind me, and I said, "Doesn't this look like that?" And then she was like, kind of awkwardly a little yes, but also like she didn't want to speak up on it. And then her boyfriend came out of nowhere and with an attitude and being disrespectful, popped off saying, "Don't talk to my girl like that." When nobody was being rude on my side at all. But he tried to talk tough. And it got to the point that I called him out. Now, this was before I had the anger management I have now. It got to the point that I called him out, like, well, what are you gonna do? And then the guy stands there like he ain't finna do nothing, but Charles, trying to prevent a situation, stood in between me and the guy, blocking me off. And I was like, I got mad at Charles at that moment. And we had a conversation later where I explained to him, I was like, why would you side with somebody else? Why would you be like, I don't need you to protect me. I don't, you know, I could fight. You know, I've been in fights. Why would you do that? And then he had to explain to me he wasn't doing that because I can't fight or what have you. He was doing it because he knows that I actually would fight. And the consequences of if I fought is either one, I could go to jail, or two, something could happen. So, with that being said, Charles, knowing what kind of person I was and what kind of stand your ground person I am, he got in the way and stopped it. That's the same thing here. They're famous in their families. We don't know what they're famous for, but they're famous in their families for something. And if it happened to be a quick type of person who's a fight or flight, they're a fighter, then maybe that's the type of situation we'd get into. But that's what's going on here. All right. Now, outside of that, does anybody have any other comments or questions? All right, then go ahead and press out, Charles.
All right, everybody, go ahead and bow your heads. Father, now thank you for the study that we got into where there was a mixed examples of ways, but we got to get the context and things we got to work on. There were different ways that the context was set up for this Bible study. But I appreciate that Bible study nonetheless, and all other Bible studies we've had, and more we're going to have after this one. I pray that after this Bible study that we'll get the rest we get, but we get back in the Bible and we read a little bit more, not just what we're going to read next, but maybe some interesting details that we never really even looked into, stuff that we can look up and confirm through the Bible. And in Jesus' name, amen.
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 All right, everybody. Have a wonderful night. Talk to you tomorrow. Oh, wait. Actually, Thomas, I want to talk to you in a second. I'm going to call you real quick.